Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. So many of you in the crowd are new to us today, and so if you are joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science, and we do like 40 broadcasts every single month with the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. Just last week, we were in the Moon Rock Lab in NASA in Houston. Next week, we go live with a venomous snake in the hand. There's all sorts of cool stuff on the go, and you can catch this program and like 4,000 others at that YouTube channel. Now, I'm really excited that of all days, the over 560 of you are joining us today, because today is our first time ever doing a program in partnership with the amazing folks at the Disney Conservation Fund. Now, earlier this year, they supported us and helped us set up a huge, amazing group of broadcasts that, again, are all on our YouTube channel, featuring some of the amazing conservation organizations that they have helped sponsor over the years. But when they did this, I was like, man, we've got to have Disney themselves come in. And fortunately, they've got a world-class educator, and Morgan Belle is going to join us today and tell us a little bit about the amazing things they do there at Disney, and specifically a Butterflies Day at Disney and some of their cool pollinator work. Now, before I bring Morgan in, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz to test some understanding, have some fun, you can pull up that game pen and do just that. We'll be doing that in about 20-25 minutes. But without further ado, you're not here to hear me talk. I'm going to zip it, turn you over to Morgan. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the broadcast.
Hi. Oh my gosh,
Hi.
I am so excited to be here. Talking to students and classrooms is truly my favorite thing, because y'all are always the most excited group of people, and you always have questions that are so good and that I would never think of, and 9 times out of 10 always stump me. So get your thinking caps on, because I am ready for your hard-hitting questions.
Stump the Expert is one of the great joys of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So I'm really hoping our live class and Cherokee, our groups on YouTube, you guys can stump Morgan. But we've got groups from, honestly, Florida to British Columbia today. We are crossing the continent, and I know you've got a lot to share with us. So I'll zip it and leave you to dive in and take us away if you want to bring up your presentation and get started.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. All right, go back to start here. Okay, so like Jesse said, my name is Morgan Belle. I am a conservation biologist here at Disney's Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And a lot of the work that I do with Disney is to try and make Walt Disney World and Disney in general the absolute best place that it can be for all of the wild animals that come to visit. That could be sea turtles nesting on our beaches where we have resorts. That could be migratory birds that come to visit. Or in my case, a lot of the work that I do is with smaller and maybe more delicate animals, in this case, like the monarch butterfly. So the monarch butterfly, you guys might be familiar with it. It's a super famous butterfly right here on the screen. These beautiful orange wings. This butterfly is a male. You can tell by those 2 dots right there on the back. But this is a butterfly that I'm spending a lot of my time with lately here at Walt Disney World doing some research. And that's the research I'm going to tell you guys about today. It's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. At least I think so. You guys can be the judge of that. And so I'm going to share that with you guys. So to kind of give us some background here, our monarch butterfly is a really incredible flyer, and it makes this amazing migration, which just means it moves from one place to another place throughout the year during certain seasons. And so our butterflies that are in Florida right now actually started down in Mexico and are making their way through the country. So wherever you live, you probably have seen or will see a monarch butterfly sometime this year, which is really exciting. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have tigers or lions or bears in my backyard, but I definitely have monarch butterflies and other insects, which is why I like to work with them, because they're everywhere. So our monarch butterflies move into the country, into America, down from Mexico, if we're talking about the population that lives over here. But if you look on this map here, there's a big question mark down there where Florida is. And that's because we don't really know too well what our monarchs are doing here in Florida. There's a question mark because we just got a lot of questions, to be totally honest. We know that they kind of swing in here maybe on their way into the country, and they sometimes swing on their way out. And then we have monarchs that have just decided that, you know what, Florida's a great place to be. I don't actually need to go anywhere. And so they don't migrate at all anymore. They just stay here, which I understand. Florida's nice. It's nice and warm year round, but we're not really sure why some choose to stop here and some choose to just pass through. So that's a lot of the work that I'm trying to do, is help answer some of those questions about what our butterflies are doing here in Florida and what really specifically they're doing here at Disney. Where do they like to go? Just like when our guests come to visit Disney World, they've got preferences on the rides they want to ride or the foods that they want to eat. And so we want to answer some of those questions about our monarchs. Where do they like to go? What do they like to do? So yesterday I took this video, and there's no sound. I'm going to narrate what's happening, but some of the work that we do to figure out what our monarchs are doing is actually track how they move across Walt Disney World. So I'm going to narrate this video and talk about what we're doing, but this is from yesterday over at Epcot, which is one of our 4 theme parks. And it starts out with this butterfly right here, and it's in something called a glassine envelope, which is just kind of a breathable little space to hold them for a moment, so they're in their safest form. But I'm going to take this butterfly out here in a second, and we're going to start collecting some data. And there's Juliana there on my right, and she is helping me record all of the data. One of the most important things we can do in science is record our data and record it well. And so she is doing the amazing job of that. But the first thing that's happening here is I'm looking at this butterfly. I'm trying to determine, is it a male or a female? And then I'm going to look and see how its wings are. Does it have any damage to its wings? Does it have any missing scales or potentially a little duller in color? And that's just how we know that this monarch is the healthiest it can be, because we don't want to do any research with a monarch that might be feeling a little bit under the weather or sick. We only want to work with the monarchs that are the healthiest because we don't want to stress anybody out. So I'm making sure that our monarch looks good, wings look healthy, really strong flyer. I'm doing that here, and our butterfly looks super great. And then the next thing I'm going to do is take this ruler, and I'm going to measure the length of these butterflies' wings. And so unlike people, right, we grow as we get older, we get taller. The monarch butterfly doesn't. Once it emerges from its chrysalis, it stays the same size. And so we can measure the butterfly, and that gives us a really good idea of how much nutrition, how much yummy milkweed it ate when it was a caterpillar. So I took that measurement. If I remember correctly, it was 4.2 centimeters, 42 millimeters. And then the next thing Jules is doing is she's giving me a small little sticker. And what I'm doing is I'm taking that sticker, I'm showing some of our guests that were watching as well, but I'm taking that sticker and I'm going to touch the abdomen of the butterfly. So it's that last little segment on the butterfly's end. And I'm going to take a little sample of the scales. And that's totally fine. The scales just add color to our butterfly's wings, and they naturally kind of leave the butterfly as it brushes up against anything. You can kind of see there was some orange and some black there. Jules is showing it off right there. And we'll actually be able to take that and put it underneath a microscope. And then we'll be able to see, does our butterfly have any disease or parasites or anything that we need to worry about? So this is just like if you go to the doctors for your annual health checkup. Same thing, we're giving our monarchs a little checkup. Next thing is a sticker. We call this a sticker tag. It has a number on it that is unique to this monarch. So now we know that monarch, this is monarch, say 782. And we can always track this monarch based on the number that's attached to it. This is actually how we found out that monarchs migrate. Someone put a sticker on a monarch, and then someone else found that monarch far, far away, and we realized, oh my gosh, this monarch flew from here all the way over there. And so this is how we originally found out some of those movement migration questions. And then in a second, we'll show you the fancier technology that we're using now to answer some of those questions. So our monarch has its sticker. She is now giving me that radio tag. So we'll show it off here in a minute, I think a little bit better. But you can see it's this teeny tiny little tag, and it has an antenna and a solar panel on the back of it. So anytime there's sunlight, that tag is going to send out information that says, here I am, I'm right here. And so that lets us know, wow, our butterfly is moving all across. So we don't have to rely on finding that butterfly again. The data just gets sent to us, which is really cool. So that tag is going to go right on the back of our monarch's back. Jules is showing it off to all our guests that were watching us yesterday morning. And we actually attach it with eyelash glue. So the same type of glue that you would attach fake eyelashes goes on our monarch butterflies. There was some research that found that that's the absolute safest thing we could use for our monarch. So that's what we're going to do. So she is doing the tough work of making sure that the glue is on. We've got the best, piece of glue. And then she's going to weigh it as well to make sure that the tag and the glue don't weigh too much for our monarch. So even though the tag looks kind of big to us, it's about the size of a grain of rice. but insects in general are really, really, really strong. So they can carry 10s, 20s times their weight. So they're really, really, really impressive little animals. So this backpack will feel like a little bit of a change to our monarch, but it's not going to be anything that he or she can't handle. So she's taken that weight, she's recording that number right there. She's going to give me the tag, and then this is the real tough part where I have to attempt to get that little teeny tiny tag right in the middle of our monarch's back. So she is showing off right there some actual fake monarch wings that actually have little weights in them. I'll go to the next video here. Oh, first video again, I think. There we go, second video. All right, so she is going to take those fake monarch wings and actually weigh down our real butterfly's wings. And that just holds our butterfly in a stable position so that we can get that tag on safely and quickly. So now our butterfly is weighted down on the table. I'm going to take a little toothpick there, and I'm moving all those legs and antenna out of the way so that our butterfly is sitting as comfortably as possible, so that he or she is as happy as he can be while we do this work. And then I might block the camera here, but we'll show you a photo of the tag attached in a second. But I'm going for right squarely in the middle of the butterfly's wings. I attach it on. I think the wind thwarted me briefly here, so I had to flip it around. Got it on. And then I'm going to take another toothpick, and I am going to adjust it to make sure it's in the perfect right spot. So you can see me kind of adjusting it there, making sure it's looking perfect for our monarch. I'm checking to make sure the antenna looks good. Everything's great. We can tell our monarch is still happy and healthy because those antennae are still moving around at the front there. Jules is going to record that we've attached that tag successfully. She'll record the tag name and time. We'll let this sit for about 90 seconds. And then there we go. There we have a tagged monarch. And it looks like that. So you can see in that photo on the right there, that is that monarch with its shiny, brand new tag on it. And you can see kind of that part at the top is the solar panel. So anytime there's sun, we're getting information about where our monarch is going. So yesterday we tagged this monarch, we released it, we sent it back on its way. And then that photo on the left there is Juliana and Lauren with that antenna and their phone. And so they're waving it around. And that's just one of the ways that we can see where our butterflies are going and what they're doing. So in real time, they're getting information on what that butterfly is up to. And this helps us figure out, like, okay, does this monarch really, really like this garden? And it's not going anywhere else. It's hanging out here. And then we can go, why? Why might it like this spot? Or it might fly somewhere totally different, which is also really interesting information. Yesterday, I actually got word that we had a butterfly that we tagged at Epcot, one of our parks, and it ended up a few miles away in one of our different gardens, which is really, really, really cool and just goes to show how incredible of flyers that monarch butterflies are. And this last little image I wanted to show off is to share one of my favorite facts about the monarch butterfly is that they can fly up to 50 Cinderella's castles in the air. So if you took 50 Cinderella castles and you stacked them on top of each other, monarch butterflies are still going to fly straight over top. So amazing flyers, and this research is going to help us figure out where they're going, where they like to hang out at Walt Disney World, and hopefully answer some of those questions about what they're doing in Florida. But that is just a little bit of what I get up to here at Walt Disney World with our conservation teams and our science teams. So I'm really, really excited to be here and share this work with you guys. And I hope you have lots of good questions for me because I'm ready for them. So.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Morgan. And what a deep dive into all that stuff. It must be so much fun to do that. And so one of our first questions, before we dive in with our Kahoot, which we'll do in just a second, I'll pull up that game pin so everyone can get ready for that, is how many times have you had the chance to do this? Like, is there a volume? Do you have a figure?
Yeah, let's see. I think we're up to maybe 30 butterflies now. So every single week I'm out there, we're tagging as many as we can find, but I think we're up to 30. So super. I feel like I'm just now getting in the groove, Yeah,
we're getting there slowly but surely. It's worth noting whenever we have people that work with animals in this way, like this does take a little bit of training. You don't want to be going and grabbing monarch butterflies in your home or classroom or anything else. Leave those alone to the professionals like Morgan. But if you get the chance to go to somewhere like Disney, see this in person, it's such a special experience. I've seen some butterfly tagging before in person in my life, and it's such a neat thing. So with that, before we dive in with our nice long Q&A, we are going to do our Kahoot together. So, Morgan, I know it's your first time joining us. So for you and for anyone else who might be new to us, the faster you answer, the more points you get in our Kahoot. And what you win is Morgan and I's everlasting respect. So no pressure at all. We're going to dive into some general butterfly and insect facts to reinforce some cool concepts for you today. And then we are going to dive in with your questions. So YouTubers, you can also start sharing your questions online anytime. We'll take a bevy of them. Miss Paget's class, our live group, we can't wait to hear from you in just a second as well. But we are going to get started with this. And the faster you answer, the more points you get. Morgan, if you want to help us out with any hints as we go along through this, you can point us in the right direction, perhaps, with some of these queries too. All right. Let's see. 3, 2, 1, drum roll, please. Our first question is about butterfly or insect species in the world. So we talked about monarchs today. They're a really, really special insect. There's 6,000 species of mammals. How many insect species are there? How many kinds of bug are there on this planet? 150, 6,002, 10,000, or at least 1 million? Seems like a lot. I don't know. Maybe. Any hints? What do you think? What do we want to tell them?
Ooh, they're tiny. I think you can fit a lot.
You certainly can, and most of our audience nailed this. There's over 1 million species of insect. Every time we go out to a rainforest or pretty much anywhere, actually, and we really look for new insects, we find new species. So maybe the next monarch, maybe the next, giraffe-necked weevil. There's all sorts of cool insects on this planet, and over 1 million species. We think many, many more than that. All right. We talked about some conservation stuff that you guys are up to with monarchs, and we've done this in a few other butterfly programs this year. What are insect numbers worldwide? Are they increasing? Are we having more bugs than ever? Are they staying the same? Are they going down? Or we have no idea? How do we even measure such a thing? Now, this sort of speaks to a thing that we talk about in a lot of our conservation programs, which I'm curious what our audience thinks first. But, ooh, wow, a lot of you thought they're increasing. So, no, it would be great if they were increasing, but insect numbers, including butterfly numbers, are going down around the world. So we are really having a big impact on a lot of species around this planet, Morgan. But there's people like you that are doing such great stuff to counteract that and bring species back and sort of have a future of abundance. So that's the positive note, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Wow. Changes our leaderboard entirely. Balanced urchin takes the lead. Third question. The world's largest butterfly. So this is not a monarch. A monarch's about yay big. I've seen many monarchs, many thousands. The biggest butterfly is the Queen Alexandra's birdwing, which is pictured here. Is it 5 inches, 7 inches, 11 inches, or 5 feet like this big? That would be really cool.
I want a butterfly the size of me. That would be impressive.
So cool. Back in the day, before the dinosaur era, some insects did get really big. We had dragonflies the size of seagulls back then. Yeah. So pretty live. But yeah, the 16 of you who put 11 inches, you are correct. As big as your dinner plate. So if you have a big dinner plate, that's how big these butterflies' wings are, which is really, really special. So balanced urchin keeps our lead, barely over red new. Going to our final question before we head to Q&A. What can you do to help butterflies? We've got kids joining again from all across Canada, the United States, and beyond. Can you tell your friends and family what you learned today? Can you buy sustainably sourced products? Can you take action on climate change? Or, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, in every coot I have, can you do all of the above? What do we think? 6 seconds left, 25 answers in. Get them in, get them in, get them in. Yeah, the answer is all of the above. Most of you got this right. Now, Morgan, you know, this is the first bit's my favorite bit, because just literally by listening to this presentation with you today, if you go and tell people about these things and how cool Disney's work is and showcase what we're doing for butterflies, that really does go a long way to helping them. Because if you have to understand something before you can care about it enough to take action to protect it. So it's a very important thing you guys are here today, and we really appreciate it. Red news, second and first for all the marbles. Drum roll, please. Yes, it's our balanced urchin. Way to go. If you are any of these folks, let us know are in the chat. But we are going to go to our Q&A now. So YouTubers, please do keep sharing Miss Paget's class. I'm coming to you guys in just a second. Miss Peterson's class, they're joining us in McKay, Idaho. They want to know, what is the life cycle of the monarch, Morgan?
Ooh, that's a great question. The life cycle is really cool. It's the same for all butterflies. So you've got the adult butterfly, it lays an egg, and all butterflies have a host plant. So they've got one species of plant or a small set of plants, and they're very picky, and that is the only plant that they're going to lay their eggs on, because it's the only plant that caterpillar likes to eat. So caterpillars are really, really picky. They like only a small group of food, which I understand because I only like chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. I don't know if you guys are the same. Right. But they lay that egg, and then that egg hatches into a caterpillar, and then they'll grow and grow and grow as a caterpillar through what's called instars, where they molt every time. And then once they're big enough, generally when they're kind of that big chunky size that we start to recognize as a caterpillar, they'll go into a chrysalis, and that chrysalis will hang. They'll stay in that chrysalis from 8 to 15 days. It depends on the weather and a few other factors. And then once they're ready, they'll emerge. That chrysalis will kind of split in half, and our adult butterfly will crawl out. And then they'll hang there for a little bit. When they first emerge, their wings are kind of all tucked up and they're really fragile. So if you ever find a butterfly that has just emerged from its chrysalis, give it a little space, let it hang out. It's a really cool time to sit and watch, because they're going to sit there for a few hours and stretch their wings out. They're going to dry their wings, and then they're going to fly off to keep the life cycle going.
So cool. So I'm going to harp on something for a quick second, because this chrysalis thing, I think we all know about chrysalis, but it's like black magic. Like, it's one of the coolest things in nature. And it's not like the caterpillars just like growing wings in the chrysalis. Like, they melt. Like, they literally like become goo, and the thing reforms and it becomes a butterfly. Like, imagine if at like 12 years old, you just like covered yourself in clothes and you just melted under the clothes, and you came back and you're a different thing. Like, it's really, really odd. It's really
It's crazy. And one of my favorite facts is that when they're in this like gooey form inside the chrysalis, they've actually got a substance kind of like antifreeze that you would put in a car, so they don't freeze if they're all goo in there.
so cool. I love it so much. Anyway, we could talk about chrysalises all day, and we should in a program in the future. But we're going to head to our Cherokee, Texas class live for a question, and then back to YouTube. So please do keep sharing them there. But come on in, Mrs. Paget's class. Welcome in. Hi. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Millie. I'm in the 4th grade, and I was wondering how y'all catch the butterflies and tag them.
Great question.
We use a net. Pretty standard. So we've got this kind of big net. It looks very silly. It looks like just like if you would picture someone running around with a butterfly net. That's exactly what I'm out there doing. So the nice thing about butterflies is they're pretty picky when it comes to flying around. And so if it's nice and warm and sunny and not raining and beautiful outside, they're up doing their thing, looking for nectar and pollen. But in the early morning, sometimes when it's a little bit colder, they're not ready to fly yet, because they're exotherms, right? They need to get their energy from the warmth of the sun. And so if it's not super warm yet, they're all tucked, they're just hanging out, they're snoozing, they're just waking up in the morning. And that's a really easy time for me to go in there and to swipe a butterfly quickly in a net. And then I carefully will pull it out of the net and put it into that little envelope that you saw in the beginning there. And it'll just stay there for a few minutes safely until we can start the tagging process. So
very, very cool. I'd love to do that. I've done that with bats before, but never with butterflies in person. So one day I'll come down and take a chance. Yeah, get you guys coffee, shine shoes, whatever you need as a volunteer.
We'll get you out here.
We had a question about winter for the butterflies. So can you tell us a little bit more about where they go for the winter, what that actually looks like? Because it's one of the coolest things in nature.
It's magical. So we have two populations of monarch butterflies. We have one here where I am on the East Coast, it's the eastern population, and then we have the western population. It's split by the Rocky Mountains, and they go to two different places. But for our eastern population here, they're the one that makes that really famous migration. And so come fall, when they're headed out for the winter, they go all the way down to Mexico, and they'll spend their winter roosting or kind of hanging out in one big group together. And it's the most magical sight in the entire world, because they nest or they roost in these beautiful forests, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions, of monarchs all together hanging in these trees. And at first, it almost doesn't look like monarchs, because they're still and they're just all curled up together. And then once you get kind of closer and look in the trees, you realize, oh my gosh, this isn't leaves on a tree. This is actually butterfly wings. And so they'll hang out there until the beginning of spring, and then they'll start making their way back into the country, largely through Texas area, and then sometimes Florida.
Very, very cool. I'm trying to bring up a picture. My computer's fighting me a little on it, but I'm going to make sure you get a chance to see the picture of the butterfly forest. I've seen it in person. I've gone down to Mexico. One of the coolest things you can do on planet Earth. Texas, you guys are like right down the way. Get in a bus right now and go and see the butterflies. They're so special to witness. Oh, there we go. I think I've got it. Let's see. And then keep those questions coming. We have lots of time for questions, which is very, very exciting. Okay, here's a picture of the amount of monarchs you'd see in like the butterfly forest, which is just unreal. Like it's hard to even fathom that something like that is real. It's so special. I hope everyone gets that chance in their lives. Very cool. Morgan, we got a question about your job. Is there a favorite part of your job? Is there something that gets you up in the morning? It all sounds pretty good, but anything you want to share with us, go for it.
Wow, I really do love my job. It's an absolute dream job. I think my favorite thing is that I get to do things like this, to be totally honest. I love that I get to be a scientist and I get to help, be curious and ask and answer questions every single day. And most of the time, those questions lead me to more questions that I can keep trying to answer. And I can help try to, save species and make sure animals are around for us to appreciate forever. But I love that I also have the opportunity to share it with people. And I love that I get to kind of exist in that space of doing the science and talking about the science.
I love how many people we bring on the broadcast, and when they get that question, say doing this, because it makes me feel really good. It's a very fun gig. Mrs. Paget's class, we're going to head back to Cherokee. Come on in and take us away. You're good to go.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Richard, and I'm fourth grade. Why did the butterfly why does it start in Mexico?
Great question, Richard.
Ooh, why does it start in Mexico? So the butterfly, like most butterflies, like to migrate to stay in warmer weather. Because remember how I mentioned that they need that warmth to move around? And so it gets kind of cold in some places. I don't know about where you guys live. Where I live, it doesn't snow. And that's sometimes why we have monarchs that stay year round. But in other areas, like up in Canada or farther north, it gets really cold. And monarchs, yeah, Jesse's nodding. He would know. I wouldn't know. Right? But it gets really cold, right? And if you're a monarch butterfly, you're like, I don't know if I need to hang out here year round. And I've got wings, so I can get out of here. So they fly all the way down to the warmest weather that they can find. And that's in Mexico.
So I'm in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. So I'm in the west coast of an island in the far east coast of Canada. And we had 7-foot snowdrifts this winter. So they were bigger than me and my car in the driveway. And so Canadians, classically, every year, millions of Canadians, they call them snowbirds, literally fly down to Florida and Texas and Arizona. And we come hang out in the sunshine with all you folks down there because it's so nice. And we want to escape our crazy winters here. So the butterflies do the same thing. And in fact, a lot of animals on this planet will migrate to go and find nice conditions because not all of us can live in Cherokee, Texas, where the weather's pretty good all the time. So there you go. Great question, Richard. Thank you so much for that. Miss Peterson's class wanted to know, do the tags ever come off? Do they fall off? Do you have to take them off? What's the deal?
That is a really good question. That's some of the work that we're trying to find out. So this technology is really new. And so we're actually tagging some butterflies inside our butterfly house. And so they're hanging out there all the time. So we can actually go check on them all the time. And we can say, hey, does this butterfly still have its tag or does it not? For the most part, we're finding that the tags do a really good job of staying on. But in some conditions, like when our humidity is really high, or it's potentially a little too warm outside, we're finding that the tags take longer to stick. So they do sometimes fall off, but for the most part, they're doing a pretty good job of hanging out, sticking on.
Very cool question. Thanks, Ms. Peterson. So our next question flows so nicely into this. Is there any other cool tech that you use for your work? Is there any AI usage, cool camera traps? Like there's a lot in conservation now, but do you use any of it directly?
There's a lot. So I think the coolest tech that we're using right now is the tags on the monarchs, but we also use them with other animals. So they've just now gotten small enough to use on insects, which is why we started using them with our monarchs. But we've been using them for a really long time with a type of bird called the purple martin. It's a small bird about this big, and it also migrates. It goes down to Central America and Brazil every year and then comes up here. And we have a massive population that lives here at Walt Disney World. And so we've been using these tags, a similar type of tag, a little bit bigger, not as tiny as the one we use on the monarchs, for quite a few years now with them. And we've found out a bunch of really cool information and actually been able to see them go all the way down to Brazil, hang out there, and fly all the way back. One of the really cool things that we found out is when they're on their way back, they're really excited to get here. They're all rested up from their time down in Brazil, and they actually will fly back here even faster. When they're going down, they're taking their time, they're meandering. When they're coming here, they're zooming. They're ready to get back.
What neat research. I've got to stress for our kids these days. So like Morgan and I know this because we grew up about the same time. And so back in the day, if you put something on an animal, it was like this big. and you could put it on like a whale or an elephant, and that's about it. And like the technology's gotten so good that we're putting them on butterflies now, which is insane. And you're growing up in this era where that's totally normal, but it's not normal. It's so, so cool. And our technological capacity to understand what animals are doing, where they are, is just fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing all that. I'll try and pull up a picture of a purple martin too, so we can feature that. One more question from YouTube, and then we'll head back to Mrs. Paget's class. What species of butterfly is your favorite? No pressure at all.
Oh, goodness. This question is always so hard. You think I'd be prepared for it, but it stumps me every time. I'm going to say the zebra longwing. It is the state butterfly of Florida. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here in Florida, but it's a really beautiful butterfly. It kind of is shaped a little bit different than other butterflies you might think of. They've got very long wings, hence the name. They kind of stick out straight. And it's a yellowish, white, and black stripe, hence the name zebra butterfly. And it's a really pretty one. And it's really good at gliding and kind of flying everywhere. So it's always a treat to see them.
The fact that you were able to come up with an answer at all is actually really rare. It's one of the kids' class's favorite questions is, what's your favorite animal? And like biologists do not know the answer to that. We love everything because
how can you pick just one?
Yeah.
You know?
But you have set an example for us all that you can find something that is your favorite and stick with it, even if it's not the thing you talked about the whole program. So way to go.
Don't tell the monarchs.
No, they're top secret. Mrs. Paget's class, come on back in and take us away with another. Hey, guys.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I'm in the 4th grade, and I was wondering, what is the most common distance a butterfly can fly before it has to take a break?
Ooh, cool question.
That is a good question. And that might be the one that stumps me. And so, if we're studying monarchs, right? Originally, remember that sticker that you saw me put on in the beginning, that kind of white sticker? That's how we know that monarchs migrate at all, right? And so we would put the sticker on in one place. We'd write down and say, okay, we tagged this monarch, we being, researchers at large, tagged this monarch. And then someone would hopefully find that monarch again and say, okay, someone tagged it in Florida and it ended up in Kansas. And so we knew how far it would fly. We didn't know anything in between, right? So that's what these tags are going to help us find out. And hopefully we can get some information on how many of those little flights they're actually making and maybe potentially how many breaks they're taking in between. But in general, if a monarch or other butterfly is just flying around and isn't making a big migration, they're going to stay pretty close. They're only going to kind of move in a 1 or 2 mile radius if we're talking about a bigger, stronger flying butterfly. And anytime there's a flower, they're trying to stop and hang out. So they're not going to make super long distances unless they're really trying to go somewhere, because flowers is what they're looking for.
It's like Morgan and I in McNuggets. Anytime we see some nuggets, we just got to run and just go grab them. I literally had nuggets like 10 minutes before this broadcast because they're the greatest joy in the world. When you're an adult, you can still be like a kid. It's very fun. I'm going to take this question into a nerdy territory just because I can't resist. We've never had a question quite like that before. So some birds can spend months on the wing. Like they literally fly over the open ocean. The air keeps them up. They come down and just grab food off the surface and keep flying. They sleep on the wing. So that's like the record for something like that. But we've never had that question for butterflies before. So very cool, Morgan. Thank you so much. Geez. The time flies and you're having fun. We are nearing the end of the broadcast. I'm going to say to our live class, if you guys want to share more questions via email, please do send them to us after the program is done. But before we wrap up, is there anything that you particularly recommend for our classes today to help butterflies in their local area, help monarchs, anything to leave us with before we bring them in to say goodbye?
Yeah, I think the thing, and I mentioned this earlier, the thing that I love about butterflies and insects in general is they're everywhere, right? You can find them anywhere you are. And so I really love to tell people and encourage people to get outside and see what is in your backyard, see what is in your green space, look around. Even if you don't think anything's there, if you spend a few minutes, get really quiet, look around, you're probably going to find something crawling around, and then you can figure out what it is and ask some questions and then share that information with someone. And that's the best thing you can do. If you want to do something else, you can plant some flowers. Insects and butterflies in particular really, really, really need a lot of flowers to keep pollinating and doing their jobs and getting all the food and habitat they need. So if you've got some space, even if it's just one little pot on a windowsill, one flower makes all the difference. So if you feel like doing some gardening, highly recommend that.
I'm heading out to the yard right now, and I can't encourage our classes enough. If you want to find out what lives near you, check out some really cool stuff. My Naturalist is amazing. You can literally type in your city, Cherokee, Mackay, Toronto, wherever you are, and look up all the things that live locally and all the things that live anywhere on the planet. So you can find out all sorts of cool stuff and help real scientists like Morgan do their amazing conservation work. So some really cool things to take home. We're going to message all our classes with some neat resources when we're done. I also encourage you all, head to Instagram, check out @Disney Conservation for some of the amazing stuff that they do to help save butterflies, purple martin, turtles, all sorts of great species. And Morgan, before we wrap up, how we end every broadcast, I'm going to bring in our live class to say thank you and farewell. If you're on YouTube and you want to scream and yell too and annoy the principal, you have our permission, so please do. But Mrs. Paget's class, thank you so much for being here. And Morgan, have a wonderful rest of the day.